So after law enforcement had basically absolutely nothing against me, and they were only full of lies, basically false testimonies and exaggerations against me, including a 10-year-old child claiming mid-January 2026 that I said anti-government things to him when I was a 10-year-old child right over here at Padonia Elementary School. I grew up in this neighborhood since I was a 9-year-old child, basically. So yeah, and all their lies completely caught, and they've done absolutely nothing except for run sex schemes and money fraud the entire time. Each one of these people, whether it's Ibrahim trying for his sister just yesterday to try to get me married with his sister just yesterday, July 18, asking law enforcement to check if I would willing to marry his sister just yesterday, July 18, for the greedy framer trying two of her daughters to try to test to see if I'm willing to marry two of her daughters or not. My dad, the greedy framer, his rap sheet's just through the roof. He's tried everything from trying to get me to commit incest with all of his sisters, literally February 11th, 3:17 a.m., February 11th, 3:56 a.m., being told that this is open advertisement for incest, to be sending your porn star's picture with your sister's name on it, and then still trying it 3 times on March 7th, 2026. I mean, his rap sheet's just through the roof. I'm not even going to get into that. And he's tried way too many things to try to get illegal assurance of money from me. Yeah, blackmail, price tags, everything. He knew about it from the start, and he was obviously enviously trying to lock it up. And if he didn't know, then he could have just asked his sister, Farah the Greedy Framer, why she's advertising two of her daughters to me. I mean, these people were all enviously locking up my brain savant. And yeah, so basically law enforcement had nothing. And their narrators are either extremely guilty like Assad, or they're other people that are extremely envious and extremely greedy for money, and they're willing to do anything for it, including Ibrahim, the greedy farmer spokesperson, trying to get me to marry his sister just yesterday, July 18, after they overanalyzed June 24, 2026. And then you have for the greedy farmer trying both of her daughters, two of her daughters, my dad, the greedy farmer, all kinds of stuff. Incest, like sleep with my sisters in exchange for illegal assurance of money. He's been told February 11th, 3:17 a.m. He's still trying it March 7th 3 times. Yeah, these kinds of things. So I knew this was a fact, and I knew for a fact that this is what law enforcement would come up with in order to try to frame me. All these false testimonies, 10-year-old child claiming 25 years later, mid-January 2026, the group chat coming out of the same person in law enforcement overseas who's defrauded money I've been trying to end since the year 2022. All these things going on, and like, I knew this was going to happen. I mean, the law enforcement had nothing against me. In last year, October 2025, they were losing like crazy, and it was just kind of like they were losing like crazy, and I was sitting in my living room and I was just brainstorming. I was like, I'm going to buy the Caesar machine, which converts textbooks to PDF format, and because they were losing like crazy. And I was just like, I'm gonna buy a textbook from Amazon, convert it to PDF, and start using my brain savant powers as soon as I get it, because I've been begging for it since August 25th, 2023, as soon as I won my case back then. And so law enforcement, being envious like they are, not only do they not like looking at reality, they don't like hearing it about it either. So law enforcement said, if you heard what he just said right now, as in me, in October 2025, then you've just been scammed. Who's hearing over here? It's just me and law enforcement talking. This is my living room. We're talking about people. So I was just like, hey, you know what? I'll make you a deal that you can't refuse. Like in the movie The King, King Henry makes a deal with the Prince of France. You know, I told law enforcement, I was like, I'll meet you in Moscow, Russia, right near the Kremlin, and we'll do a 30-minute brain savant test in front of the entire world watching, so that everyone in the world knows whether you cheated or not and used any kind of drugging or not, any of your tools or not. In the 30-minute brain savant test, we'll find out if I'm really Kim Peek Rain Man or not, from the naked human eye being able to observe everything in 30-minute time period, whether I'm really Kim Peek Rain Man or not. And then on top of that, artificial intelligence letting everyone know whether I have innovation or not. Obviously, I'd have focusing. If I'm Kim Peek Rain Man, I have to have focusing. So yeah, so we'll have to go ahead and see that in Moscow, Russia. And so I told them, I win the 30-minute challenge and I'm Kim Peek Rain Man. I win my case, because the motive is clear since you guys haven't done anything since 2001 except for this. And if I lose and you win this 30-minute brain savant test and I'm anything short of Kim Peek Rain Man, then case is over, you win. And so I made the deal as simple as that last year, and I went to Russia afterwards because they were running their mouths like crazy. This brain savant doesn't exist. It never existed. It cannot exist. This and that, blah blah blah. It cannot exist. It's not in this world. Reality is this and that, blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, fine. Meet you in Moscow, Russia then. November 10th, I went there, and yeah, they did a less than a minute long brain savant test on November 14th. And guess what? On December 10th, when the results came out, artificial intelligence told them, plain and simple, do not mess with this guy. If you challenge him, he will run you over up and down the hill. He is Kim Peek Rain Man. And so at that time, they had to shut up after that, like obviously December 10th, they helped the girl stalk me until she hit the back of my car and I ended up in the emergency room. So obviously the results were what I said they were gonna be for the 1 minute test, which is really just a way of cheating. You use artificial intelligence to tell you what the results are going to be in 30 minutes by doing a quick 1 minute test so that the person, me, doesn't have any time to actually use the powers. And yeah, it's actually less than a minute long test. It's more like 30 seconds. Even then, they don't completely let it go. Enough for me to know that my powers are there and how much it's increased, but they don't completely let it go so that it can't be seen performing out in the open. But yeah. This year I made them an even better deal. Unlike last year, this year I also put it under oath on video. I said, if I win and I'm Kim Peek Rain Man in 30 minutes, case still goes. Nothing happens to the case. Case still goes. But if you win, law enforcement, then I lose the case. Because my entire motive against you is the fact that you had done nothing since 2001, except for run sex schemes and money fraud with everyone I've ever known, including Uncle Joey and God knows whom else, which is true. That's all they've done. And I told them that since my entire motive against you, my entire case against you, is that this is all you've done, and so your entire thing against me is due to the fact that you found out about my brain savant being extremely rare and profitable, and that's when you started to come after me and make all these false testimonies against me, which is true. They couldn't care less about any investigations before, considering the fact that their money fraud, money transfer from the unemployment disability fraud just stopped literally 2 months ago. If it did stop, it only stopped 2 months ago, and that was even by force, the government stopping it, since law enforcement themselves had to start it by going to the person, giving them contact info, bank account numbers, phone numbers, transfer numbers, wire transfer numbers, everything possible in order to transfer that money. And the person obviously wants to continue doing it because he knows that right now I'm just using the savings of the money that we stole together with law enforcement. But once this case is over, I make more money through the same fraud again. And not only that, I also get immunity from anything that I could do that could even remotely be considered bad, which we see with Assad very clearly with him walking away like he's done absolutely nothing wrong. So yeah, this is what has been going on. And so I told law enforcement, plain and simple, look, you've been BSing since 2001. Let's cut the chase here. You've been BSing since 2001, and my mother's promise that she made to law enforcement when I was an 11-year-old child was fully fulfilled the moment I became slightly mentally mature as a child, never to be seen in a setting where anything remotely considered bad could be said around me ever again. While you, law enforcement, have been in those settings, not caring in the least bit, but caring about your sex schemes being run with Uncle Joey's in-laws, due to which they also had to provide for Uncle Joey and running their money fraud, which was literally stopped by the government only 2 months ago, and that was only because of force. But the thing about it is just the fact that, I was just like, let's cut the chase here. You've done absolutely nothing, and you couldn't care about anything else since 2023, when you were running your sex schemes and money fraud, you knew that there was a wedding crime that you were fabricating against me. And so, let's cut the chase here. You've done nothing since 2001. You couldn't care less about anything or anyone at all. And so basically, I made an even better deal with law enforcement this year. I said, I'm going to put it under oath on video that if I win my 30-minute challenge and I'm Kim Peek Rain Man, the case still goes on. You don't lose the case. The case still goes on. But if I lose the challenge and you law enforcement are basically able to prove that my theory against you, law enforcement, that you've done nothing since 2001, which is true. They've done nothing. Facts and evidence will show that. Even the money fraud only stopped 2 months ago, and even that was by force by the government. They've been running sex schemes since 2001 with Uncle Joey's in-laws. They couldn't care less about anything. Whereas my mother's promise was fulfilled the moment I became even slightly mentally mature. And even before then, my mother would not be present in any setting where anything remotely considered bad could be said around me, clearly showing that she was at work and she did tell the truth, and that she's never been heard uttering one word considered bad her entire life, and neither was I, even in a setting where even remotely considered bad could have been said around me, since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity, except for that one time I had to go meet my dad out of one of the only 3 times I've ever met him in my life, where obviously panic was created. Okay, there was a government informant involved. The last day there was a circus that he was running. There was panic. So except for that one time in 2011, yeah, my mother's promise has been fulfilled. So I was just like, my entire theory against law enforcement is the fact that all they've done is run sex schemes and money fraud till they found out about my brain savant being extremely rare and profitable, due to which they wanted to literally frame me and murder me. That entire theory does not exist, which means that if you win this year, and I put it under oath on video this year, even better deal than last year, I told them, you will win your case, which basically means that law enforcement can use whatever the tools they want, literally frame me, murder me, do whatever they want to me after winning their case. And law enforcement, even this year, 2026, refused to take that deal. They have nothing to lose. You got to remember, if I'm Kim Peek Rain Man in 30 minutes, the case still goes on. And the only difference is, if I'm not Kim Peek Rain Man in 30 minutes, then I lose. But either or, whether I'm Kim Peek Rain Man in 30 minutes or I'm not, case still goes on. Makes no difference for law enforcement. Only makes a difference for me if I prove to not be Kim Peek Rain Man, that it makes a difference for me. And law enforcement still didn't take the deal this year, 2026. You know why? Because of sex addiction. These girls that they're trying to scam. They're already having a hard time being able to control the girls to try to get them to sleep with whomever they want, whether it's a drug addict, or someone with 2 kids getting an early retirement this year, or something of that sort of nature. They're already having a hard time doing that. And so they're not going to accept this deal. Pretty much this year, I proved to the courts that everything that they're doing is due to their sex addiction, which is why they have to keep this trial ongoing. So last year, like King Henry in the movie The King, I made a great deal with them. I win 30-minute challenge. I'm Kim Peek Rain Man. I win the trial. Why did I do it? Because they were running their mouths. I didn't just wake up the one morning and challenge them. They were challenging me in October 25, saying that I'm a liar, scammer, scam artist, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, hey, you know what? I'll pick you up on that challenge. I'll take you on that challenge. You want to get to the truth so much. Let's see how much you want to get to the truth too. So I was like, I'll meet you in Moscow, Russia in a couple weeks. And I got there on November 10th after they were running their mouths in October, saying that I'm a scam artist, liar, brain savant doesn't exist, blah, 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 this and that. And in the movie The King, King Henry makes a deal with the Prince of France. I made a deal with them. I win the 30-minute challenge. I'm Kim Peek Rain Man. I win the trial because that is why you've been doing this, obviously, since you've done nothing but sex schemes and money fraud with everyone I've ever known in my life, whom I've not even seen since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, like Uncle Joey. Yeah. But if I win the 30-minute challenge and I'm Kim Peek Rain Man, I win the trial, because that is obviously why you've been trying to frame me with all these false testimonies, and lies and everything. But if you win the 30-minute Brain Savant challenge, then you win the trial, because you've proven that my entire theory against you doesn't exist. Law enforcement, after running their mouths all day, night long, saying I'm a scam artist, liar, this and that, they did a little 1 minute long challenge on the night of November 14th, 2025, only to run away from their own challenge. And when the results came out on December 10th, 2025, artificial intelligence literally just told them, do not mess with this guy. He will run you over up and down the hill. He is Kim Peek Rain Man, which is why he's challenging you. And they read that artificial intelligence report, and they helped one of their friends, literally a lady friend of theirs, stalk me, told she hit the back of my car, and I ended up in the emergency room. Same thing this year, it's like I made them an even better deal. Forget King Henry from the movie The King. This deal is like no other. It was just like, this year was under oath on video, and I was just like, you lose, you still win. You win, you still win. It was just like, if I'm Kim Peek Rain Man in 30 minutes, you still get the trial going. If I'm not Kim Peek Rain Man in this 30 minutes, I lose the trial. So you win either case. Nothing affects you at all. This year they refused the deal again, due to their sex addiction, obviously. And it was due to that sex addiction of theirs that they overanalyzed June 24th, 2026, hoping that it would give them a way to be able to run after these girls, and they'd be able to find a flaw in my Brain Savant. Brain Savants, you gotta understand, are extremely rare, extremely powerful to begin with. You're not going to find any flaws in it. All you're going to find is artificial intelligence saying, well, when you analyze it, this was the graph. The peak ended here. Now that you're overanalyzing it, the peak ends even higher up. It's that sort of thing. That's all that happened. So this year, yeah. So basically, yeah. That's the thing with their sex addiction. It's been proven this year with the new deal that they refused again, and they cowardly over analyzing June 24th, 2026 from last month, that they just did last month, June 24th. It proves that they're desperately trying to find flaws in my Brain Savant, and they only found good things about it. And obviously, Brain Savants are 1,000 times more powerful than normal humans. If you analyze it, common sense dictates artificial intelligence is going to show you a graph where the peak ends over here. You overanalyze it, the peak ends a little bit higher. You got to remember the fact that it's evolved now, and it's evolving still. So you're only going to find a better peak. That's all you're going to find after overanalyzing it. These people, these geniuses, don't understand that. And so, yeah, this year they refused to deal again, even though it was a much better deal. It was on oath, under video, and they still refused it only due to their sex addiction, which is proven today. Today's July 19th, and I can guarantee the courts, they've gotten rejected by these girls again. And they've been putting these Jiffy Lube ads on my YouTube all day to try to threaten to take out oil from my car and stuff. Only because I refuse to help them with these girls. You have to remember the fact that these girls are basically vulnerable because they don't live with their parents. What the problem is that they have in life, you do not know. I do not know. When I used to live with my stepmother, the problem that I had was my mother used to work at a Food Line grocery store. And by the way, I only lived with my stepmother in just a room. I never talked to her or anyone else. Law enforcement is a witness to this. And my own mother used to work at a Food Line grocery store, and she's like, I used to get abused, have acid added to my clothes, puncture my clothes is what she would do. The hole would spread, and she wouldn't let my clothes go to the laundry, due to which I developed ringworm infection. I was given food that the serfs in the house would get. Serfs are like, in third world countries, people live inside of huts, and they'll work in your house for like $10 a month. It's not maid service. it's serfdom. Basically, yeah, it's terrible. And these people are living inside of huts, and they're only working at your house for $10 a month, and you give them scraps of food that are left over. That was the food that I got, basically, living there. And law enforcement's witness to this fact, and people, my stepmother and the rest of the house would get like outside food. They get really nice food, like they would go outside and get it. And my mother used to work at a Food Line grocery store. She couldn't afford to like get me a good place or something. You know what, these people, these girls that are living by themselves, vulnerable because they're not living with their parents, what the problem was due to which they have to live with themselves, we don't know. I'm not going to help someone's daughter, someone's sister, to be scammed by these people, so that they could pass that girl around and have her sleep with some drug addict, due to which she's probably gonna end up dead, and her siblings are gonna find her one day. I'm not gonna do that. So if you want to take oil out of my car, be my guest. I'm not doing this. So yeah, I won't do it for myself, and I won't help you do it either. If I had my brain savant, I wish I did, I would have just told them, I won't let you do it either. But I don't have my brain savant, so all I could say is I won't help you do it either. But anyways, this video is basically about how I was a child when 9/11 occurred, and children are not to be blamed. Who are to be blamed are adults. Adults were never blamed for anything, including my dad, the Greedy Framer, who did the most dangerous thing in 2011, due to which law enforcement had to put a government informant in there. He was running a circus, trying to encourage people to join terror groups in 2011, something my mother's never been heard uttering one word all her entire life. So my mother's been watched with me, and she's never been heard uttering one word considered bad her entire life. Since my mother talked to law enforcement when I was an 11-year-old child, she told law enforcement straight out that my child is only an 11-year-old child right now, and I work at fast food restaurants, and I have to leave him. Or any place that would watch him for free, but this is only going to run until he gains the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. And law enforcement said that's fine. And so that's what happened. And as soon as I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, I was never around any of law enforcement's BFFs for them to be running any kind of, sorry, not running scams. Sex scams, yeah, they were running it, but that's not what we're talking about. They're drugging me, because of which I can't talk properly. Any of law enforcement's BFFs could have said anything remotely considered bad around me ever again from the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, and my mother would never be present in that setting where anything even remotely considered bad could have been said around me, clearly proving from facts and evidences that she was telling the truth about the fact that she had to work at fast food restaurants or factories at night, due to which she had to leave me behind with anyone willing to watch me for free while she did so. And law enforcement couldn't care less, because those people law enforcement's been running sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, and there are other BFFs narrating right now who are liars, are people like my dad, the Greedy Framer, who was not saying something around me that was considered dangerous or bad, but doing something around me that was considered incredibly dangerous and bad. You can't say something that's dangerous, because, well, unless if you have a huge audience that you're giving sermons to, that my dad, the Greedy Framer, was doing in 2011, that would be dangerous, because it's going to cause an effect that we saw in 2011 very clearly. Whatever you say doesn't affect anything. Whatever you do does. And what my dad was doing in 2011 was he was doing something and not saying, so that would be dangerous. Whereas anyone could say anything they want in their living room, it would never be dangerous. My dad, the Greedy Framer, in the year 2011 was basically encouraging people to join terror groups. And the last day he did this, there was a government informant sitting next to him. I remember it really well, and it was just one of the 3 times I've ever met him in my life. And the government informant kept trying to interrupt him and trying to twist his words, so making them sound differently. That's not what my dad, the Greedy Framer, was saying. He was basically encouraging people to join terror groups and commit mass murder, and regardless of how hard the government informant tried, he couldn't twist his words, because the government informant would say something, and my dad, the greedy framer, would say, no, that's not what I'm saying. And he would then say that you guys should basically commit mass murder and join terror groups. And if you don't believe me, just ask, like, check the record from 2011. That is what happened. This was the last day before the circus was closed down. Basically, after this government, the law enforcement only had one of two options. Either we keep sending government informants in and doing an investigation like how we just did right now, or we're gonna have to tip him off. Law enforcement, not wanting to do any work, tipped him off, obviously. Thankfully, November 20th was not handled by law enforcement, because if it was, then the greedy framer spokesperson, Ibrahim's mother, would have been tipped off instead of her being investigated. And she was obviously investigated, where the government informant was put in by the government, not law enforcement, because I can guarantee you law enforcement would never do their job. So basically, yeah. And that is what happened over there. Thankfully, they put a government informant in there, started an investigation, found out that these people were taking national security for their own personal use, making sure my brain savant would be locked up, using it. So yeah, that is what happened, and thankfully it happened that way. Next video is going to be on why children are not to be blamed and adults are, and how their case against me doesn't make any sense, since this is the only case left. Now that Mahrukh and Adamji are pushed aside due to them being found out only 8 days ago that they were fully fabricating lies against me, this is the only thing left now that the false testimonies have also been caught. But this cannot stay in, this cannot make any sense, and I'll show you exactly why in the next video.